sun hung low over the New Mexico territory that autumn morning in 1867, casting long shadows across the ponderosa pines. Thomas McKenzie stood on the porch of his modest log cabin, coffee cup in hand, watching the dust rise in the distance. At first he thought it was a herd of wild horses, but as the dust cloud grew larger, spreading across the valley floor like a living thing, his chest tightened. He set down his cup carefully, his hands suddenly unsteady. They were coming. Hundreds of them. An entire Apache patrol. Their silhouettes emerging from the golden haze like spirits materializing from another world. And they were headed straight for his homestead. Thomas was no stranger to the Apache, but never, not in his 15 years on the frontier, had he seen this many warriors moving together with such purpose. His mind raced through every interaction, every word, every decision of the past months. What had he done? To understand what brought hundreds of Apache warriors to Thomas McKenzie's door that day, we need to go back 6 months, to a spring morning that had started like any other. Thomas had never wanted to be a hero. He'd come west after the war, like so many others, looking for nothing more than peace and solitude. He'd built his cabin near the Gila River, far from the growing settlements, far from the railroad, far from the endless conflicts that seemed to follow civilization wherever it went. He traded fairly with the Apache bands that moved through the region. He learned enough of their language to show respect. He never took more than he needed from the land, and he never broke his word. In return, they left him alone, a rare privilege in those violent times. But on that particular morning in late April, his simple life was about to change forever. Thomas was checking his trap lines along the river when he heard it, a sound that didn't belong in the wilderness symphony of bird calls and rushing water. It was human, crying, children. He followed the sound to a rocky outcrop overlooking a bend in the river. There, huddled beneath an overhang, were 3 young Apache girls, none older than 12. They were exhausted, terrified, and injured. The oldest had a gash across her arm that looked infected. The youngest couldn't have been more than 7. In broken Apache and sign language, the oldest girl, whose name he would learn was Nalin, meaning maiden, told him what had happened. They'd been gathering roots with their mothers when slave traders had attacked. These were the worst kind of men who operated on the frontier, professional kidnappers who captured Apache children to sell to wealthy Mexican ranchers or mines that used child labor. The girls' mothers had hidden them in the rocks and led the slavers away, sacrificing themselves so their daughters might escape. But the girls were lost now. They'd been wandering for 2 days, with no food and no clear idea of which direction would lead them back to their band. The slave traders were still searching the area. The girls had heard their horses and dogs the night before. Thomas faced a choice that would define everything that followed. The frontier had taught Thomas many things, but perhaps the most important was this. You could live alongside the Apache, or you could cross them. There was no middle ground. And what you did to their children, their most precious treasure, would be remembered forever. He could have walked away, pointed them toward the mountains and wished them luck. It would have been the safe choice, the practical choice. Getting involved in Apache affairs was dangerous under the best circumstances. But Thomas had fought in the war. He'd seen what happened when men chose safety over what was right. He'd made a promise to himself after Appomattox. Never again would he stand by while the innocent suffered. "Come," he said in Apache, using hand signs to make his meaning clear. "You're safe now." The girls were terrified of him at first, understandably so. But hunger and exhaustion overcame their fear. Thomas brought them to his cabin, where he tended to Nalin's infected wound with honey and clean bandages. He fed them rabbit stew and corn cakes. He gave them blankets and let them sleep by his fire while he kept watch from the porch, his rifle across his knees. That first night passed without incident, But on the second day, the slave traders came. There were 4 of them, rough men with cruel eyes and well-used rifles. Their leader, a scarred man named Dalton, had tracked the girls to the river and picked up their trail from there. "We're looking for 3 Apache children," Dalton said, not bothering with pleasantries. "Saw their tracks leading to your place." Thomas stood in his doorway, blocking their view inside. "Haven't seen any children, Apache or otherwise." Dalton's eyes narrowed. "You're lying. We can see smoke from your chimney, and we know those girls are somewhere in this valley. Now I'm a reasonable man. We'll pay you a finder's fee, say $50, and be on our way. Nobody needs to get hurt." "I said I haven't seen them," Thomas repeated, his voice flat and cold. Inside the cabin, the 3 girls huddled behind a false panel Thomas had shown them, barely breathing. The standoff lasted for hours. The slavers searched Thomas's property, his barn, his smokehouse. They found nothing. Dalton threatened, cajoled, and finally tried to bribe Thomas with $200, a fortune on the frontier. Thomas never wavered. "There's nothing for you here. Best move on." Finally, as the sun began to set, Dalton mounted his horse. But before he left, he leaned down and said, "You're making a big mistake, friend. This territory has a long memory. So do we." After they left, Thomas knew he couldn't simply release the girls into the wilderness. The slavers would be watching. He needed to get them home. But he had no idea where home was for 3 lost Apache children. For 3 weeks, Thomas kept the girls hidden while he tried to make contact with the Apache. He sent smoke signals in patterns he'd learned from traders. He left marked stones at known gathering places. He waited. During those weeks, something unexpected happened. The girls began to trust him. Nalin, the oldest, taught him proper Apache words. The middle child, Diane, showed him how to weave grass into baskets. The youngest, little Kai, would fall asleep against his shoulder by the fire while he told stories. They told him about their band, the Chihen, the red paint people. They described their camp in the high country, near a place where 3 streams met below a distinctive red cliff face. They spoke of their fathers, who were away on a hunting expedition when the slavers attacked. They wondered if they would ever see their mothers again. Thomas didn't have the heart to tell them the truth he suspected, that their mothers had likely died leading the slavers away. Such sacrifice was honored among the Apache, but it didn't make the loss any easier for children to bear. Finally, in the 4th week, Thomas made a decision. He would take the girls into the mountains himself and search for their band. It was risky. He could be killed on sight by Apache scouts who might not give him time to explain. But leaving them to fend for themselves was unthinkable, and keeping them hidden forever was impossible. They set out before dawn on a cool May morning. Thomas carried minimal supplies and no weapon except his skinning knife. He wanted to appear non-threatening. The girls led him higher into the mountains, following half-remembered paths and landmarks. On the 3rd day of their journey, they found the camp, or rather, the camp found them. Apache scouts had been tracking their party since they entered the high country. They materialized from the forest like smoke, surrounding Thomas and the girls in seconds. There were at least 20 warriors, all armed, all watching Thomas with expressions he couldn't read. Nalin stepped forward and spoke rapidly in Apache, gesturing to Thomas and pointing back the way they'd come. The warriors listened, their faces showing nothing. Then one of the scouts, a younger man, suddenly rushed forward. Not toward Thomas, but toward Nalin. He dropped his weapon and swept her into his arms, tears streaming down his face. Her father. He'd returned from the hunt to find his family destroyed and his daughter missing. Within minutes, the other girls' fathers had pushed through the crowd. The reunion was emotional, chaotic, and beautiful. But through it all, the warrior's eyes kept returning to Thomas, standing quietly at the edge of the clearing, uncertain of his fate. The leader of the Chihene band was a respected warrior and chief named Victorio. He listened carefully as the girls and the scouts told their story. He examined Nalin's healing wound, noting the careful treatment it had received. He asked Thomas direct questions through an interpreter. "Why did you help them?" Victorio asked. "You knew it was dangerous. You knew the slave traders might kill you. Why risk your life for Apache children?" Thomas considered the question carefully. Through the interpreter, he said, "Because they were children who needed help. Their mothers gave everything to save them. I couldn't let that sacrifice mean nothing." Victorio was silent for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He embraced Thomas, a gesture of profound respect among the Apache. "You have honored our daughters," Victorio said. "You have honored their mother's sacrifice. You have shown the heart of a true warrior, even though you came to us unarmed and peaceful. This will be remembered." Thomas was invited to stay with the band for a week, treated as an honored guest. He learned more about Apache culture in those 7 days than in 15 years of frontier living. He shared meals, listened to stories, and formed friendships that would last a lifetime. When it came time for him to leave, Victorio made him a promise. "If you ever need help, send word. The Chihen do not forget their debts." Thomas returned to his cabin, grateful to be alive, grateful for the experience, but expecting life to return to normal. He had no idea that he had just become part of something much larger. 6 months later, as autumn painted the mountains gold and red, word spread through the Apache bands of the Southwest. The story of the white man who had risked everything to save 3 Apache girls and asked for nothing in return had traveled from camp to camp, growing with each telling. The Apache had a tradition. When a great honor was done, or a significant debt was owed, the bands would gather to acknowledge it publicly. It was rare, reserved for momentous occasions. But when it happened, it sent a message that echoed across the territory. So they came. Not just the Chihene, but warriors from other bands as well. They came to honor Thomas McKenzie and to make a statement that would be heard from the Mexican border to the railroad towns. This man was under Apache protection. As Thomas stood on his porch that morning, watching hundreds of Apache warriors approach his cabin, he felt fear give way to understanding. They weren't coming to harm him. They were coming to honor him. The warriors formed a great circle around his homestead. Victorio rode forward, accompanied by Nalin, Diane, and Kai, the 3 girls he had saved, now healthy and smiling. What happened next would be talked about for generations. Victorio spoke to the gathered warriors and to Thomas, his voice carrying across the valley. "This man, Thomas McKenzie, has shown us what true honor looks like. He protected our daughters when they had no one else. He risked his life against evil men. He asked for no reward. He is Wajaje, a friend to the Apache people. Let all who hear this know. His home is sacred ground. His word is trusted. His life is protected by the Chihen and all bands here gathered." Each band leader came forward and placed a marked stone in front of Thomas's cabin, physical symbols of their pledge. The pile grew until it stood waist-high, a monument to honor and courage. The girls gave Thomas gifts their families had made, a beaded belt, a hand-carved pipe, a blanket woven with the symbols of the 3 bands. But the greatest gift was the promise of friendship in a time and place where such friendships were extraordinarily rare. For the rest of Thomas McKenzie's life, he lived under Apache protection. His homestead became a neutral meeting ground where disputes were settled and trades were made. When violence swept through the territory during the Apache Wars, his cabin remained untouched, a small island of peace in a sea of conflict. The 3 girls he saved grew to adulthood, had children of their own, and told their grandchildren about the white man who had risked everything for them when they were lost and afraid. And that pile of stones remained in front of his cabin long after Thomas McKenzie had passed away, a testament to a simple truth that transcends time and culture: that courage, compassion, and honor will always be recognized and remembered, no matter who you are or where you come from. Sometimes the greatest battles we fight aren't won with weapons, but with choices. The decision to help when it would be easier to walk away, to stand firm when it would be safer to bend, to do what's right even when the cost might be everything we have. Thomas McKenzie made that choice, and on that autumn day in 1867, surrounded by hundreds of Apache warriors who had come not to threaten but to honor, he learned that courage always calls forth courage, and that honor given is honor returned.